Victoria Janeo, and in this video I'd like to explore the prevalence of self-harm in performance art during the 1970s. I will be discussing a total of 3 particular works, 2 by the late American artist Chris Burden, and 1 from the catalog of contemporary Serbian artist Marina Abramović. I hope to reveal why each of these works were so critical given the historical context of the time and each of the artist's personal experiences. I also aim to illuminate why performance art truly may be the most affecting medium to convey narratives and scenes of pain and violence, and therefore the most arresting art form overall. Going in chronological order, the first work to discuss is Chris Burden's 1971 piece titled Shoot. Chris Burden is often remembered as having been one of the most provocative and shocking performance artists of the 20th century. Shoot unquestionably played a role in cementing that legacy for him. In order to perform the piece that Burden claimed he only did in order to ensure he'd become famous, Burden positioned himself in the corner of the room in an art gallery, stood with his back to the wall, and faced his gallery assistant friend who stood a distance of 15 feet away. Burden demanded that gallery goers watched, as the assistant did as Burden had instructed him to, shoot Burden in the arm. Allegedly, viewers watched in disbelief as Burden's blood was splattered on the white gallery wall behind him, his arms began to drip, and the smoking hole in his arm began to fill the room with a fleshy, burnt stench. Although Burden would later recall the performance to be disgusting, it did succeed in posing many questions. Why did a viewer have such difficulty accepting that what they'd witnessed was indeed a true act of violence? What do we deem more valuable? Aiding the notion that high art is distant and far removed, or aiding a human being in need? 3 years later, Burden staged yet another performance piece in which he would knowingly and deliberately undergo extreme pain. In April of 1974, he chose Speedway Avenue in Venice, California, to be the site where he'd perform his piece titled Transfixed. This performance consisted of Burden lying flat on his back on the hood of a Volkswagen car, having assistants hammer nails into the palms of his hands, and then having the car be rolled out of the garage for a large audience to see. For 2 minutes straight, Burden lay flat on his back in physical agony, while the car engine was revved full throttle in order to mimic a human crying out in pain. While Burden's reference is clearly an allusion to Christ being crucified, it is curious why he named the piece Transfixed, chose to be positioned atop a motor vehicle, and put himself through such public, intense, performed pain, rather than depict a similar scene through another medium. Could it be that the revving of the car was intentional commentary on industrialization and capitalism, drowning out the audible agonies of individuals? Could Burden be suggesting that we are so transfixed on what is shiny and new that we can completely overlook cruelties and injustices inflicted upon the people behind the machine? The third and final performance piece I'll be reflecting on today is one by Marina Abramović, created 1 year after Burden's Transfixed. Abramović, one of the most beloved performance artists of all time, began her career in the early 1970s with her rhythm pieces, in which she pushed her personal boundaries of comfort and consciousness. In 1975, she formally departed from her rhythm series, but created the like-minded work titled Thomas Lips, first performing it at the Kristine Gallery in Austria. Entirely naked during this entire work, Abramović eats 1 kilo of honey, consumes 1 liter of red wine, and then shatters a wine glass with her hand, cuts a 5-pointed star into her stomach with a razor blade, and repeatedly whips herself. Thomas Lips is distinct from Shoot in the sense that Abramović relies on her audience's involvement and essentially rests her health on it, because she only concludes the work by departing when the audience becomes too upset by her performance. While Burden strove to comment on the desensitivity caused by the media's relentless depiction of soldiers at war in Vietnam, Abramović's work implies that she believes humans are still compassionate enough to act when they see another human in need. However, Abramović's work is similar to Burden's Transfixed in that Abramović's work clearly references Christianity, particularly rituals regarding sin and punishment. Both Burden and Abramović chose to communicate their thoughts pertaining to violence, culture, and self-harm through performance pieces, and I personally feel as though they deserve much respect for it. Pain, a critical emotion, demands to be felt. Perhaps Burden and Abramović perceive the world as not feeling enough, and themselves as feeling too much. Alternatively, their work could be interpersonal attempts to bridge internal trauma and external wounds, discovering where the two meet. Either way, I'm sure that each of the three works triggered audiences to think differently about the roots and effects of violence. I know they have shaped how I view performance and pain.